Hello, Michael. You are the last caller here on the show for this evening.
Hi Bart, how are you?
Pretty good. Got a hand first, Michael?
I do. This is from Rounders in San Antonio. Um, and the game is 5-5. And in this hand, I am in the straddle, and the straddle is 15. The straddle's up front.
So 5-5 and then 50. And it's a match to stack game too, right? Probably?
It's uncapped.
Uncapped. This is a big game. This is Rounders in San Antonio. Big game, right?
Right,
Big
it is a
Texas
big
game.
game.
And how deep are you
Right.
guys?
3,000 effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 3,000 effective San Antonio Rounders. 5-5 plus 15. Okay.
And in this particular hand, we're six-handed, and the first to act player, he raises to 50.
Okay.
And it folds around to me in the straddle, and I have ace of spades, nine of clubs, and I call.
So 5-5 15. Heroes in the 15. UTG to 50. So the pot's 75 and Heroes heads up. It's 35 for 75. Ace 9 off. So you're getting about 2 to 1 here, right? 35. Oh, it's actually, excuse me. Yeah, 75. Yeah, it's 35 for 75. So you're getting about 2 to 1 here, right?
Right. Well, he raised to 50 over
Right.
my $15. Right. Right. Gotcha.
Right, 50, right? Yeah, 75. Yeah, 75, 35 to call. Okay. I mean, it's some nits might fold, but that's okay. So your calls, okay.
And the flop comes ace of diamonds, nine of spades, seven of spades.
Ace of diamonds, 9 of spades, 7 of spades. So you flop top two.
Yes.
Okay.
And I check it to him, and he bets 75.
Okay.
And I go ahead and I raise to 300.
So hero raises to 300. Now, the only thing I would say about this is now you have a lot of hands in the straddle. So I think that raising here is definitely okay, especially if you're allowed to raise with a lot of combo draws. There are times in sort of very sort of tighter configurations, more lockdown configurations, where if you want to strive to play a little bit balanced, you could make a case where certain ace high boards, perhaps even like this, wouldn't have many raises, like if it was a 3-bet pod or very, very tight configurations. But I think that you have a bunch of hands here in the straddle, and I think you can have a lot of combo draws that wouldn't necessarily show up in the field here too, because you're closing the action. So yeah, I can get on board with it. So you go to 300, okay?
Right. And then he three bets the flop, and he goes to 900.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah. Um, and this guy, by the way, I don't think he's a pro. He's probably like a semi-pro, but he's clearly a studied player. He's pretty tight. So he has some clue what he's doing. Yeah, I don't know how relevant that's going to be to this hand, but um, but yeah, definitely a strong play.
I mean, do you feel? I mean, you got to be. You got to feel more comfortable continuing on here with Ace 9 than you do with like pocket sevens,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think so. I think so.
That's why it's so interesting that you have Ace 9 here. And of course, the reason would be because, the guy's got way less combos of. Obviously, he could 3-bet the flop with aces and nines, right? It would
Right.
even be debatable. Maybe he 3-bets with sevens sometimes, but I mean, you could easily be flat calling here with nines. Um, if I had sevens there, it is interesting because you have so many hands and you might have these other 2-pair combos. So sevens could be a 3-bet more often than in a much tighter configuration versus a check raise here. So there is that. But I mean, I would just look right off the bat. I mean, I don't think you can fold per se. And I would just sort of start to look at the pot size and be like, well, it's going to be, can I call? Do I have stack depth to just call? Now, if you do just call, you've put in 1,800 on the flop. The pot will be 1915, and you guys will only have like 1,200 left. Is that right? Am I doing that right?
So the pot
Oh,
I
excuse me.
have
You'll
like
have 2,000 left, right? The
right,
pot.
right,
So you'll have about a pot size bet, right? Moving to
right.
but there's a lot of board changing cards. I mean, I assume if you call, you're going to plan on just check jamming a brick, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, my plan is probably just to accept getting the money in on most turns. But yeah, that was kind of the plan.
So hero calls.
Hero calls,
Yep.
and the turn is the five of spades.
I wonder if that's even. I mean, you said that the guy was sort of a thinking player, or you thought he was somewhat of a studying player.
Right, yes, yes.
I was gonna say, I wonder if that's even that much of a scare card. Although I will say though that the Ace X of Spades is well, you have the Ace of Spades in your hand, right? So he can't have like Ace King of. I had forgotten that you had the Ace of Spades in your hand. So it's like he can't have Ace X of Spades here. So is a guy bet three betting King 10 of Spades, 10-8 of Spades, something like that? I just wonder. I wonder how much of a scare card that card actually is. Kind of a bizarre. You just don't really ever face like a bet, a three bet in position, all that. You don't face a three bet all that much when you check raise a board like this. I would say with these stack sizes, at least that much in live poker. It's just very, very rare. Do you agree with me? It's probably not the
Definitely.
response you were expecting when you block aces and nines, right?
Right, right. Well, just another thought I had, if he does know that I'm going to be raising flops a lot because I'm going to have more bluffs here just in the straddle, would he ever three bet a hand like ace king? I don't know. It's just something
Mm,
I thought about
yeah.
for value.
Right.
But
Right.
but anyway, so the turn is the five of spades. I check to him, and he checks.
Okay.
So going to the river now. The river is the seven of clubs.
So ace, nine, seven, ace of diamonds, nine of spades, seven of spades. Again, hero called pre-flop with ace nine off with the ace of spades. Hero check raised a $75 bet from under the gun. It is six-handed, by the way. This is a TCH challenge. Hero check raised to 300 with top two. Under the gun, bet three bets to 900. Hero blocking top and middle set. Hero calls pot to 1915 as we move to the turn, and they have like over 2,000 left. The turn's the five of spades, and it goes check, check. Pot's 1915. River is the seven of clubs, pairing the seven here. And this is kind of interesting here because obviously, here's the thing. I mean, there are pocket aces and pocket nines, right? I mean, there's one combo of pocket aces and pocket nines that are left. If he were to have pocket aces or pocket nines here, I would be pretty scared if I was your opponent, if I had pocket aces and pocket nines and three bet your check raise on this turn. It would not be a great turn for me, and I very well might check it back. Now, because you guys had one pot size bet left, I mean, maybe it's not bad for the guy to necessarily pile there with one because you're not like super, super deep. But okay, so let's say he those are some hands that he might check back. And now he obviously would end up with a boat here. So what is the best play for you? It kind of comes down to this one's really tricky. What do you think the guy bet three bets the flop with? And then would you ever, so you're looking to try to get called by a hand like what, ace king? And then and then what happens if he raises you, right? If he
Right,
recognizes the situation. Yeah,
right.
it's an interesting one because if you try to come out and bet like 600 here, right? Let's say you go one third at the end, and then he jams on you. I think it would be like 43, like 12 for you to call, or maybe
Hmm.
slightly more than, yeah, it would be, let's see, like 25, and then he jams for 45, 14 for you to call, 45, 14 for you to call. And then you're going to be sitting there like, well, I block pocket aces and pocket nines, but what else could he have here? Right.
Right.
Ah, man, this is a tricky one. This is a real tricky one. I'm not exactly sure what I would do here. Because again, like it's like, well, if ace king just checks behind, right? If he has ace king, he just checks behind. Or do you think it's possible that he's just absolutely spazzing out here? Here's another. Here is a reason to get on board for check calling here, even though I'm not a huge fan of check calling as opposed to coming out and betting. You thought that the line was so bizarre on the flop that he has some air here. And then when the spade came, he was like, I'm not going to fucking bluff this. I'm not going to bluff into like when the guy's got either a two pair plus or a combo draw, right? When the five of spades comes. But now when you check the seven river, he doesn't think that you are checking maybe many boats, and he thinks like he's played it like he's got pocket aces or pocket nines, so he might actually be able to bluff you off of something really, really big here. So as I talk my way through that, I think I might actually get on board sometimes with check calling, even though I'm not a huge fan of check calling for those reasons, because the flop line is so strange. Because I don't know what you're prepared to do if you go 1/3 and then get jammed on. Unless you want to try to, unless you think, well, he's got air, and for the same reasons I want to check call, I'm going to throw out like 500 and then just call a raise. Like I'm going to throw out like a reverse stop bet. You know what I mean? Like a reverse mini bet.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I never actually even thought about checking to induce.
Yeah.
Well, in real time, I was thinking about check calling, but I decided there was a little bit of value to be had. Like I just feel like I have the best hand here. I block the boats, I block spades. So I decided to go thin.
Right, but you understand why sometimes thinking you have the best hand, still the play might be to
Right.
check, right?
100%.
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah.
But I do bet. I bet 600,
Okay.
and he thinks for a bit, and he does jam.
I know. So here goes 600. And now this guy jams for like what, 2,000 total-ish, right? Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So jam for 2,000. So the pot's going to be like 4,500, 1,400 to call. I mean, this is one of these ones where it's like, well, I don't know if I can give you an answer. What some of the things I've seen from like solver type stuff is like when you block like a ton of the thick value here, then they will sometimes say like it's a call, like with ace nine. My question here too in like reality is that does the guy, do you think he's good enough to know that he's sort of played it like he's got aces and nines and he might be trying to bluff you off of some sort of, he probably doesn't think you have ace nine, right? Like a flush or something like that. And it kind of all goes back to that whole three bet on the flop and how sort of non-standard and somewhat bizarre that is. I mean, again, it does make sense that he might have some aces or pocket nines, although I will see, a pretty wide reflection of people just calling with like ace here. So it kind of comes back to like 9-9 here, which of course you block. There's one combo of 9-9. I mean, I guess what I would say is the better the player, probably the more that you have to call. And the more straightforward the player, the more maybe you find a hero fold, if you can get on board with that. But again, whether or not you want to, if you think there's enough air in his range to either check and call or sort of reverse block bet and then call off, that's kind of my thoughts. What ended up happening here?
Well, so I did make the call.
Okay.
And he turned over pocket nines.
Yep. The one combo. So do you regret calling now?
I don't know if I want to say regret because I do know like if you plug this into a solver, this would be a call. But at the same time, I was thinking, well, even versus good players, does the player pool bluff enough here for this to be profitable? So I don't know. I'm like very 50-50 on it. But
I mean, you kind of got fucked, right, on the run out?
Right. Well, the seven's just terrible, yeah.
I mean, you were going to lose it all anyways, right, on a brick turn.
Right.
You had decided that you were going to go with it. But I mean, again, maybe I'm giving this guy way too much credit, as some people in the live chat are saying. It's such a, I mean, obviously he has literally like the one hand that makes sense for this. It's just really unfortunate for you that you so heavily block. If we say that like 9-9, mostly three bets here, but you have a 9 in your hand, there's one combo and then he ends up with it. It's very, very unfortunate for you. it's such a rare bet, three bet on the flop. I do wonder if there is enough air. If we take sort of the air portion of his range and try to figure out how do we maximize against that air portion, is it to go 600 and call, or is it to check? It might be that small bet and then call off if there's an air portion. But then again, we can always overthink this, and maybe there never is an air portion, right? So,
Right. Right.
all right. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it, Mike.